Hi folks, and welcome to my review of the Italian Grand Prix. So looking back at the race at Monza, what an eventful weekend! Plenty of drama from start to finish, and a top three of Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, and Valtteri Bottas. I'm not sure many pundits and F1 fans alike would have had those three to finish in the top three anyway. But like I say, Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, and Valtteri Bottas as your top three. There was the incident between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, you could argue, that kind of overshadowed McLaren's win, but take nothing away from McLaren and what they were able to achieve at Monza. So I'm going to begin by talking about McLaren, and also come on to talk about that incident between Verstappen and Lewis later on. But really, I just want to begin by offering. I know it's not Formula One, but I just want to offer my congratulations to Emma Raducanu on becoming US champion at the age of 18. Incredible story, one of the greatest sporting achievements ever. And I stayed up to watch the match, and yeah, unbelievable game. But also have to give a shout out to Leila Fernandez as well, who I thought did just as well as Emma to reach the final. And there were times in the match where I must say Leila really did play some fantastic tennis. Just didn't quite have enough on the day to beat Emma, but I have to say, once again, massive congratulations to Emma. I know she's a big Formula One fan as well, so but yeah, well done, Emma. Really proud of you, and yeah, I hope to see you win many more Grand Slams. And I've got no doubts that she will have been absolutely delighted to see McLaren finish 1-2 at Monza. And I know that McLaren had a difficult, struggling weekend at Belgium, but what a way to bounce back. If you said to them you'd finish 1-2 at Monza on race day, I don't think anyone would have believed you. I genuinely did believe that McLaren would bounce back in Monza. I thought the track would suit their car. But honestly, did I expect them to finish 1-2? The honest answer is no. I thought one of them potentially could finish on podium, but both of them to finish on the podium the way they did it as well, I think takes, and you've got to hand it to them, especially Daniel Ricciardo. Look, we know Ricciardo has had a difficult start to life at McLaren, but it's just one of those weekends where he needed a weekend where everything clicked, and this weekend it really did click together. And yeah, you have to say on qualifying on Friday. So let me just yeah, sorry about that interruption. So yeah, as I say, Ricardo did a great job in qualifying. I guess the only frustration was the fact that he wasn't able to get ahead of Max, but need not worry, because yes, in the sprint day, the McLarens, even though they finished behind Bottas and Verstappen, they were still in good places to start the race on race day, and at the start of race, Ricardo was able to get by. You could argue that was a pivotal moment in the race, and really once Ricardo was out in front, he never looked back. He looked comfortable. And he didn't sound, from what I heard on team radio, never really sounded worried. And that's why McLaren brought him to, brought Ricardo to the team. The fact that Ricardo is a race winner, he knows how to win races, and that was pretty evident on race day. So, you know what? I'm really happy for Daniel. As I say, it's been a difficult start for him at life at McLaren. But now this second half of the season, actually, he started pretty well. Yes, there was a disappointment in Belgium, but no, he got off. No, yeah, started the second half of the season well, and yeah, I think hopefully this result now he can kick on, and we'll see a lot more of Daniel that we know. And I always knew that Daniel would come good at McLaren. It was just a matter of when. And but like I say, fantastic win for the Aussie. Great to see the shoey. Great to see him do that. And it's been a while since we last saw that. But as I say, really happy for Daniel Ricciardo. And yeah, cracking job from the Australian. And let's not forget Lando Norris as well. Cracking job from Lando throughout the whole weekend. And he did have one or two difficult weekends recently, but you know what, Lando, as I've said before, and I'll say again, he has been one of the stars of this season, and rightly so. And he played the team game on race day, particularly on race day. There could have been that temptation for him to want to go for the win, but he's mature and he was mature enough to make that decision or ask the team, what is best for them, what he wanted, what the team wanted from him. And he played a perfect team player. And Lando's time will come for sure. He will win races for sure. I'm confident of that. And if this season's is anything to go by, then I think we might see Lando win a race sooner rather than later. But yeah, cracking weekend for McLaren. Great result for them in their battle for third in the constructors against Ferrari. And Ferrari themselves didn't have a bad weekend. Not a brilliant, but not a bad weekend. Now Charles Leclerc just missed out on podium finish and Carlos Sainz finishing sixth. So normally, fourth and sixth, Ferrari, I'm sure, would be this season anyway. Ferrari would be pretty happy with that. But the fact that McLaren picked up the strong result as they did, Ferrari will be at the back of their mind, we're thinking, what if? But the thing is, though, that in the battle for third in the constructors, it's going to go into the wire. I think with the way things are going, whilst McLaren did have a fantastic weekend in Monza, Ferrari will have a good weekend, and no, McLaren will have a bad weekend. So, it's going to be seesaw. Like we're seeing with Mercedes and Red Bull and the constructors. I think we'll be seeing that between Ferrari and McLaren. And I remember, Ferrari and McLaren back in the day, those battles that we had right at the sharp end, and it's getting to that point. It's almost getting to that point, and we want to see more of that. So yeah, as I say, fantastic weekend for McLaren, and not a bad weekend for Ferrari. Not brilliant, but not a bad weekend for the Scuderia. So come on to talk about Valtteri Bottas, who finished third. On race day, and a really good weekend, really good strong weekend for Valtteri Bottas. It's just amazing, in a way, now the fact that he's leaving Mercedes and will be going to Alfa Romeo in 2022, in some kind of way, I feel as if the pressure's come off Valtteri. But no doubt Mercedes will be expecting Valtteri to still be delivering and for him to play his part in wanting to get Mercedes to win an eighth consecutive constructors title. But Valtteri had a really good weekend in Monza. Did a great job in qualifying, obviously putting the car in first, and then in that sprint race, didn't put a foot wrong, and was then able to, whilst he then had to start the race from the back of the grid on Sunday, fought his way through the field, and you can only praise him for the job that he did. Had he got past Sergio Perez sooner in the closing stage of the race, then who knows? Perhaps Valtteri could, have gone even, gone one better, or even win the race. But you have to give credit where it's due. For Valtteri did a good solid job for Mercedes at Monza, and yeah, good on Valtteri, and hopefully he'll be able to take that into next Grand Prix in Russia. Track that he generally likes and track that he generally goes well at. So yeah, you never know. We might see Valtteri Bottas win in Sochi. So we'll have to wait and see. So I just mentioned about Sergio Perez. Look, with Checo, I think we all know he's got the racecraft. He's got the tenacity. He's aggressive when he has to be, but I believe in a fair way. Yeah, he did obviously got penalised, for his pass on Charles Leclerc. I think had he let Charles go by, Checo would have still been in the prime position to get by the Ferrari driver. So yeah, I think perhaps Red Bull could have, they saw Checo, what happened, and perhaps Red Bull with hindsight perhaps could have said, no, let the place give the place back, and then obviously you can go for it again. And I think Perez would have got by Leclerc anyway. But yeah, I think Checo just needs to work on his qualifying because, as I say, I think the racecraft is there. We know he's a good racer. Um, it just needs to work on his qualifying, and if he does that, then he's got a great chance of getting more, being able to string more podium finishes. So yeah, I think Checo just needs to improve on his qualifying, and yeah, I think we'll be seeing a lot more of him right at the very sharp end of the grid where Red Bull want him to be. Like Mercedes had with Bottas in at Monza. Red Bull will be hoping that Perez can be right up there. Um, to support Max because Red Bull need both drivers to be scoring points if they're serious about winning the constructors this year as well as the drivers. So yeah, so Perez I think will no, as I've said, Ricciardo will come good at McLaren. I genuinely do think Perez will come good at Red Bull. Just needs to see what he can do for the rest of the season. And yeah, I still genuinely feel that Sergio he will deliver and he will come good at Red Bull. So yeah, so I think no, so we come on to talk about Lance Stroll. Not a bad weekend for Lance Stroll and Aston Martin. Well, I know Sebastian finished outside the points, so not exactly no one half of the Aston Martin garage wouldn't have been celebrating, but Lance Stroll, yeah, really good drive from the Canadian. And look, I'm sure he'll be frustrated by the fact that he's not been able to string together the consistency that you would have liked. But you can only again, you have to give credit where it's due. I thought Lance did a solid job this weekend. We know he likes to he's a good starter off the line, and he was able to do that in the sprint race. And then yeah, really in the race itself, he was able to make good progress and yeah, pick up some more useful points for Aston Martin. And then we also saw um, George Russell, I had to think for a moment then. So George Russell, another couple of points for Williams and George, and I think my prediction of Williams finishing eighth in the constructors, I think that's going to happen. I think Williams have no look. They have made considerable progress this year, and if they build up on that, what they've been able to achieve this year, going into 2022, then I think Williams could have a good season. Don't expect them to be at the sharp end, but you just never know what they're capable of. And I think a lineup of Latifi and Albon is exciting. And I think with Nicholas as well, you've got to say, really good weekend for Nicholas. Yes, he just missed out on points at Monza, but the performance this year, I think particularly, these last 3 or 4 races, particularly, really demonstrates the improvements that Nicholas has been making, and results have been showing that. So yeah, good on Nicholas. And as I say, just a little bit frustrating though that to miss out on points. But but even so, a really solid and good weekend for Nicholas, and yeah, some more points for George Russell as well. So yeah, not a bad weekend at all for Williams. But I guess we have to talk about Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, don't we? Talk about that incident. It's got so many people talking, so many pundits and fans now talking about it. So my take on the incident, I think, I think a couple of things just before I talk about the incident. So, both had poor pit stops, which may well have played a part in that, which led up to that incident. Because had Verstappen not had that slow stop, then he would have been out in front of Lewis. Then had Lewis not had that slow stop, then perhaps Lewis would have been a little bit more comfortable, or would have had a bit of a comfortable um, lead of coming out of ahead of not just Max Verstappen, but also potentially ahead of Lando Norris as well. So that could have been the case had Lewis had a better pit stop. But on the incident itself, I genuinely think that it was a racing incident. Look, we know that Verstappen has now got a free place drop in Russia. Would he then consider actually, because he more than likely, I think Red Bull will have to change his engine. So if you're going to do it, then why not do it at Russia? And the thing is, though, with Russia as well, whilst no, actually, I think Russia, there are places that you can overtake. And whilst we may not have had many classics at Sochi, as I say, there are places to overtake at Sochi. So perhaps taking that penalty drop, change that engine, I should say, for Verstappen could happen in Russia. But I think it's 50-50 in terms of who to apportion blame on the incident between Verstappen and Lewis. From Verstappen's point of view, I think the gap initially was there for him to go through and to get by. So I think because he went over the sausage curb, I know people are kind of blaming the sausage curb, but had he not gone over the sausage curb, I think perhaps we might not have seen that incident. But I think since because he did go on that curb, I think once he'd done that, I think it was always going to be inevitable that the both of them would collide with one another, and that proved to be the case. So I think Verstappen was entitled to go for that gap. I think, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Would Verstappen do things differently? Perhaps, maybe he would. But from Lewis's side, from Lewis Hamilton's perspective, could he have given Max a little bit more space? Perhaps he could have. Perhaps he could have done that. And because that gap, as I say, the gap was there, but because Lewis then squeezed that gap, he didn't really give Max, enough space, I felt. So it's a difficult one, but as I say, I genuinely thought it was a racing incident. But we've got to say as well, a massive, yeah, not thank you. I don't think that's the right word, but you've got to give credit to the Halo system, because without that Halo, system, we saw Max's tire really close to Lewis's crash helmet, and I think Lewis said the tire was actually touching him. So without that halo, the consequences, the severity of that incident could have been a whole lot worse. And you look at that incident, you look at the really sad and really unfortunate event when Roman Grosjean had his big crash in Bahrain last year. Without the halo, that could have been, that incident in particular. We talk about the incident between Lewis and Max. No, it could have been a whole lot worse. So you got to give, now, I know I've said this a couple of times, give credit where it's due, but you really have in this instance. The halo did its job and did what it had to do. So yeah, as I say, so the incident between Verstappen and Hamilton, I felt was 50-50. I think free place drop for Verstappen. I think whilst I think it is a bit harsh, I kind of think it was coming, and someone would get punished. But yeah, that it is what it is. So we go on to Sochi now, where no doubt now both Lewis and Max will want to bounce back strongly. So yeah, it promises to be a really intriguing Grand Prix in Sochi. So yeah, once again, massive congratulations to Daniel Ricciardo. Great to see that smile back on the Australian. Great to see the shoey as well. So as Formula One heads back to Russia, so yeah, so Formula One heads to Russia next. So if you want to talk things Formula One, I'm on Twitter at Baggies20, and I'm also on Instagram, Manish Patel 89. Have a great week, all of you, and I will catch up with all you guys and girls when I do my preview for the Russian Grand Prix. Arrivederci, and take care, everyone.